The preseason has come to an end. One pretty big takeaway, and Doc Rivers shares his thoughts on the defense. Coming up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Bucks. My name is Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Each and every day, you can hear me on the Bucks Radio Network throughout the season. You can hear Camille on our Locked On NBA coverage every Monday, the Technical Foul podcast as well. Today's episode of Locked On Bucks is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Preseason is in the books. The Bucks finished 3-1 with a loss to the Thunder last night. We talked about this on the game broadcast. Mm-hmm. Do you know the last time the Bucks were perfect in the preseason?
I feel like it has to be at least. It hasn't been in the last 10 years. I feel like
I saw your hands moving. Are you typing and looking this
no,
up?
my hands are here. They're right here. I was like, it has to be at least. It's at least 10 years. I'm gonna say 17 years.
Okay. I'm curious to see any thoughts in the chat too. That was my reaction because we've all like, oh man, the Bucks have been terrible in the preseason of late. The last time they were unbeaten was 2019 when I think they went 5-0. Yeah. Like I assume too, like, well, it has to be
a while ago.
God, like at least 2015, at least 10 years ago. But no, it was 2019 in the year where that part of it tracks. That was a team that was trending towards 70 wins until pandemic started and everything started to fall apart. But yeah, I was stunned by that. But nonetheless, we don't get another one as they fall to 3-1 with this loss to the Thunder. I think pretty interesting, first and foremost, to start with. Doc wasn't really happy with the defense he saw through preseason, said it was good night one. Hasn't been good since, and ended his comments with like, we'll get it right in time for Wednesday against the Wizards.
Yeah, that's the Doc quote. It feels like we'll get it right. We got time. And I mean, they actually do have some practice time here leading up to the season beginning. So that's a little bit of a luxury that they won't have much during the season of like, it's a week here where there's no games. We're just kind of getting right here. So they do have that time on their side. But I found that comment interesting that he said since the first game, it wasn't just about this particular game tonight. He was like, period. Like, we just have to be better defensively. And it made me think because initially when he was saying, I'm like, yeah, I mean, Miles Turner wasn't in this game and that affects a lot. It feels like the Bucks might be a very delicate ecosystem to the sense where like if Miles Turner is out, defense is going to take a hit. We know if Giannis is out, what that means, but like it feels like some of these key rotational guys, if they're missing time, it's going to affect some things. But defensively for this team, I saw some good things from them, like in that game against Chicago. The Thunder game, I felt like a lot of the points the Thunder generated in that first half, especially the first quarter, I mean, the Bucks had no offensive flow, but still were able to keep up somewhat because of the 3-point rate that they were at. So, yeah, there's some work to be done. In Doc's opinion, I can see why.
Yeah, and I mean that's that whole thing too, where we get ready for the game and you're like, all right, second game to see Giannis and Miles Turner playing together. And we didn't learn until minutes before tip-off, essentially. It was probably about 15 minutes before. Miles Turner's not playing. Like, we learned Bobby Portis is starting, and then you could assume that Miles Turner was not playing, and we didn't get that clarification until we were hitting the air of, yeah, he's out. And, I mean, the wording on it, you assumed precautionary. I assumed the same with Gary Harris, too. Although Doc said after the game, I mean, sounds like Gary Harris is definitely missing the start of the season.
Yeah, about 1 or 2 weeks, he said, for Gary, and it's a hamstring for Harris, I believe. And when I initially I saw the Gary, and I thought it was Trent because my mind went to Gary.
Doc has been critical of that with reporters too. Like, look, we got 2 Garys now, so got to specify.
You really do. So Gary Harris, expected to miss the beginning of the season, out 1 or 2 weeks, in the Miles Turner calf. Doc did mention like it's not something super serious. We're just being precautionary with it. And like I just said, that's great news because you need that Miles Turner defense at the point at the rim. The effort again, defensively, it wasn't just one player, but that Miles Turner hole was felt in this game. And again, this is one against the Thunder, defending champions. One, I love that the Bucks got the Thunder in the preseason, especially with a good number of their rotation guys playing. Uncommon opponent. You don't see them too often, but also like the best of the best right now. So get a chance to kind of see how you match up against them. And when you're talking like defense too, that Thunder defense, it is connected. It is on the string, high hands. They are just bothering everyone. And that's what everyone's trying to get to. So luckily, it doesn't seem like the Miles Turner injury is anything super serious. Sounds like we should expect to see him opening night, which is great news for this Bucks team.
I think the obvious here is the back of the roster and what happens there with the decisions that need to be made. I don't know if we got any clarity here in these last couple of games, though there was something that stood out. I want to spend a quite a bit of time on that one that we'll dig into here in our second segment. But I also want to say this, Camille, as we start to pivot towards that. Well, I'm not going to lead the witness. I'll just ask you. What has been your takeaway of the bench so far through preseason?
That the first bench grouping, the Rollins Cole backcourt is really fun. Like they need a nickname, the two of them. And I just keep coming back to like t-shirt twins, because if you're not paying close attention at the numbers on the back of the jersey, they got the same drip on, they got the t-shirts, the same accessories, both around the same height, light skin, same kind of hair. I'm like, okay, the t-shirt twins. But the two of them together have been like a really good energy spark for the team. So like that's one thing that's up for the bench for me in particular. Taurean Prince out there too, Bobby Portis, and the Kuz minutes. The Kuz part is the big part, because they have seemingly moved him, to that power forward role. And coming off the bench, he's playing a Giannis light role to a certain degree. And that's something that we kind of kicked around of like, could that be something that the Bucks do? And they've put him in that position. And the scoring hasn't come necessarily in the way that you want, but most of the looks for Kuz have been good. I have actually really liked the playmaking from Kuz as well, like secondary, like you catch him pick and roll. He's on the short roll, finding guys in the corner. He seems to be making extra passes, which I love about the game, but that group seems like it could actually be pretty good. You feel like the intensity levels change when they come in. I'm not sure if during the season Doc is really planning to do this complete bench lineup. It seems it could be on the table. But that's my big takeaways. The Kuz minutes playing at the 4, kind of interesting. Like the playmaking I've seen from him. Shot selection hasn't been too big of a problem. Love the t-shirt twins and their energy. Cole Anthony has surprised me a bit with his playmaking, his aggressiveness that he can have on ball at times. But the question comes like defensively at times, what does that look like? But again, if you have this group up against other bench units, it could be pretty decent, I think.
You mentioned but completely glossed over Taurean Prince. Not gonna press you on that. Won't put words in your mouth, but it seemed notable. Taurean Prince was there.
I think that's a good thing, to be very clear, that Taurean Prince did not stand out in the way of like, oh my goodness, like Taurean Prince, they got him guarding 2 guards or anything like that. Like he's been solid. He's just out there doing his job.
He has more support around him. Yes, with this bench unit where the guys that you mentioned previously. I totally agree on the backcourt. I'm fascinated to see this bench grouping throughout the season. I think it is going to win them some games. How many some is remains to be seen. But you can definitely get defense from that second unit with Ryan Rollins. Cole's going to get hunted, because of his size. But we've seen some of the physical tools that he has. It can come up as long as you have a good team defenders around him. Kuzma can take on some of that, even Jericho Sims. So curious to see the bench unit throughout the course of the regular season. Kuzma is the guy that struck me the most throughout preseason. And I suppose I do want to spend a little bit of time on that, but the big meat of this is the roster decisions. So I want to talk a little bit about what we've seen from Kyle Kuzma so far through the preseason and how the Bucks are utilizing him. We'll get into that conversation coming up next. Time to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth. whether it's your 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have that full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch's built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is here for you. They do the heavy lifting for you, linking all of your accounts in minutes, allowing you to see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. They help you identify whether or not you're saving as much as you thought. They can help you notice inefficient investment allocation and even discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. They maximize your investments and make it easy to do so, reviewing those finances with your partner, or if you have a financial advisor, allowing you to keep a clear view of your financial health. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year using the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. Basketball season's officially here. Nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a headache. Between waiting in queues, you got surprise fees, prices that jump up right before you check out. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Jump over to Gametime, grab yourself some seats for next week's season opener between the Bucks. You want to be in the arena for the return of Chris Middleton, and Gametime is the way to do that. You can see those upfront fees at checkout. No sticker shock once you get there. No surprises before you can complete your purchase, and even get to see your view from the seats. If you've never been to Fiserv Forum or any arena before, Gametime allows you to get that experience before you purchase those tickets. They even offer zone deals where you pick the section, Gametime picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find tickets for under $25 to an NBA game. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That is the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, Kyle Kuzma, you mentioned, and we both have throughout preseason, but Giannis light. Last night especially is where it stood out the most to me that, like, is this a great value Giannis? Like, is that what we're looking at here? Where depending on what the product is, sometimes it's, I can't even tell the difference. Sometimes it's, yeah, you can tell. Like, there's parts of Kuz's game where you kind of get that vibe, but the big, and like, we're in no way comparing Kyle Kuzma to Giannis. It's just physically and what you're asking him to do, he's a transition player. So let's stress that more and more and more. Watching last night, though, I just can't help but feel like, we already had the discussion of, like, they kind of gave us the answer all along that this is who they're going to start and not so much Kuz. But this year, it feels like they're just set up in a much better spot to put Kyle Kuzma in a better spot. He's a transition guy. He thrives off of movement. And, if you were starting him last year and even playing with a group that's going to play at a slower pace, it's just not going to work. And I think that's a lot of what we saw. If you're asking him to, hey, just stand in the corner and wait for open threes and take those, that's not Kuzma's game. He needs to touch the ball. He moves without the ball. You got to get him in transition, and playing with that second unit, especially, that we think is going to continue to get up and down the court. It's not like either of us are saying Kyle Kuzma is going to be knocking on the door of All-Star, but I do think it's going to be a noticeable difference in terms of what you got from him last year compared to this year. Now, the shooting is the biggest component because he's still going to get open shots. And, we have to see that percentage increase. But we've heard Doc talk about the shot diet. And like,
Mhm.
look, if he's getting 2 open looks from 3 per game and he's, not hitting them, it's still 2. But we're getting him moving around the basket and finding other ways for him to score versus last year. That was it. So I think that's going to be the biggest difference this year.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that one. And like you mentioned, the shooting is a big part for Kyle Kuzma. And for me, it's been a shot selection thing more than anything else because the raw shooting numbers already for Kuz haven't been fantastic. And that's one thing I pointed out when he came over with the trade where I'm like, he's shooting like 26% from 3 on the career. Like he hasn't been a career great 3-point shooter. Like his best year was with the Lakers where he shot 36%.
Well, and even in the bubble, like we opined for Kyle Kuzma. It wasn't like eye-popping great.
And I think that was when he shot the 36% from 3, where it was like, it's good. It's all right, but it isn't anything that's going to like knock your socks off or anything like that. So considering all that, I just kept saying this season, the shot selection for Kyle Kuzma, I don't want to see as many like moving threes, jab threes, hand and face threes, just putting it up. If the threes are going to come, I would love for them to be open. Let's get catch and shoot. Let's get easier looks consistently for you. Let's cut out some of that mid-range. Let's get to the rim. And last year, finishing at the rim just didn't, it wasn't a super strong suit for Kuz either. Again, it was a weird year for Kyle Kuzma in the sense of like, he didn't play as well as hoped, especially come playoff time. But the thing is trying to put him in the best spots for success. And that's something that throughout the offseason we've discussed. What does it look like to put Kuzma in the position to succeed? And I think the Bucks have figured out what that looks like now. How he performs in that role, we will see as the season goes on. But there have been things I've really liked. I've loved the rebounding from Kyle Kuzma as well, especially in that second unit where you are small. You're a smaller second unit with your backcourt being Cole Anthony and Ryan Rollins. And then you got Taurean Prince, who has some positional size there. But then it's Kuz and BP as like your front court there. So like the rebounding is of the utmost importance. Kuz has been very aggressive on the glass. And like I mentioned in this game against the Thunder, I thought his playmaking really flashed. In this one, he got the assist in this game, but even in prior games, the ball movement has been good for him, passing down certain shots to pass the ball to teammates because they have a better look. So those are the aspects of Kuz's game where it's like, just focus in on that. And I heard his trainer on the Here District this week mentioning that a big focus of Kyle Kuzma's game this offseason was finishing stronger. Not, letting your body lean back when contact comes, but embracing that contact, going through it, trying to get those foul calls, if anything. So the focus on Kyle Kuzma's game this offseason seems to be very Bucks specific. And the Bucks seem to be utilizing him in a way that could bring out the best in him. So I am curious just to see what that looks like for Kuz in this role this season, because I think he has potential to, the Bucks are going to need him to produce. I'll say it that way. The Bucks are going to need production from Kyle Kuzma.
He was 31% in the regular season and playoffs the year the Lakers won the title. Like we think back to, bubble Kuz. I mean, he had a couple stretches throughout those playoffs where he was certainly shooting better, but 31% over 21 games. Like to your point, we've seen enough to know what Kyle Kuzma is as an outside shooter. He's had 2 seasons in the league where he's been 36% or better. And one of those was his rookie year back in the 17-18 season. So just getting him moving, getting him in movement. I hesitate to even say a hub, but like you could see last night too, against the Thunder, like he gets the ball, he rebounds and pushes, get the ball and go. And that's going to be big for this second unit. But also you could see at times, guys starting to bring the ball up the floor, and you would start to see a little bit of a slower pace, and Kuz is out there running like ball, give me the ball. Let's get going here. So having him as that guy is going to be important for this Bucks team to keep an eye on here in the regular season. All right, who he's going to be with on that second unit. We know the major names, but there's still some ambiguity, and there's been a couple of interesting recent developments in these last 2 games. So we'll dig into that conversation, the back of the bench and these roster battles. Have either of us waffled on our predictions? I may have. So we'll get into that coming up next. NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel remains easy to use. You get quick payouts. They offer so many different ways to play. You can build parlays, try out player props, even follow the live lines during games. Makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're just a casual fan, you love diving into the stats, maybe you want to build something around your fantasy team, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, I'm just going to come on. I have totally waffled and reversed course. I do want to read you something, Camille. So this was from pregame yesterday. I'm going to tell you, I'll read you what was said. You tell me who Doc Rivers was talking about.
Okay.
He's been great. He's a high IQ player. I think he's probably had the best compliment I've heard in a long time. One of our coaches said, you never have to coach him. That's great to hear. It means he's always in the right place, doing the right stuff all the time, and it's what you want from him. He's so different. I don't want to give away too much, but he's coming in and still learning. He's always been a solid defender, but he's making other plays now. He's making the right plays, and he's a great guy to have on your team. Who do you think that was in reference to?
Is that about Ajax?
No.
Really?
Amir Coffey. And I mean, I think it's all but confirmed. You hear that type of thing from Doc. Some other things we said we heard at media day. Amir Coffey's making the team. You go back the last two games, we did not Chris Livingston or Tyler Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't know that 2 preseason games matters all that much. And that's where you would, didn't look good in this game, so advantage Ajax. But I do think it's notable we didn't see them play at all when you have this perceived from the outside, at least, like 5-man competition over 2 spots. So does that change your opinion on who gets those final 2 spots? Because going into things up until like a week or so ago, I think I said I thought it would be Ajax and I believe Tyler Smith that ended up getting released, that Amir Coffey and Chris Livingston were going to make the team. I'll just tell you right now, I think the guys that played last night are the guys that make the team. I think Andre Jackson Jr. stays. I think Amir Coffey stays. I think the 2 guys that we did not see are in trouble.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that one. And that's part of why I thought that quote might have been about Andre Jackson Jr. Because at least defensively throughout the preseason so far, like, the man has been hustling.
Yeah.
He has been working.
And I mean, that's another guy when we talk about what the identity is going to be of this bench. You have scoring with Cole Anthony and Bobby Portis, but you do also get the sense like the bench is where you can say, okay, go get him defensively. And that's where Ajax would fit in next to you got to see what the whistle is going to be like. But, you know, envisioning Ajax and Ryan Rollins and Jericho Sims on the floor together.
Yeah, and one might be like, man, that Sims and Ajax, the spacing might be a little off, but I mean, Andre Jackson Jr.
We're not going to score, but we're not going to let you score.
Right. We'll let our defense be our offense here with this particular lineup. But I think for me, with Ajax and me coming back, like, I think he does make the team. I think the rotation in this last preseason game said a lot, with Livingston and Tyler Smith being the 2 that got no playing time. You saw Mark Sears out there. You saw Pete Nance out there, the 2-way guys currently on the roster for the team getting their playing time. And like I mentioned, Ajax, in addition to that, in training camp, Doc talked about even trying him at the 4 and the 5 and just seeing what he can do defensively. And one of the weaknesses that I've pointed to of this team that I can see on paper is like, hey, that wing size. Like, you got to make sure you have some players with some positional size at the wing. Andre Jackson Jr. has that, and that's been the calling card Bucks fans, and we've all been calling like, hey.
Well, look, it's critical, not to cut you off, as we've been on Ajax. Who do you trust in an NBA game right now? Andre Jackson Jr., Chris Livingston, or Tyler Smith? When you're saying
Andre Jackson Jr.,
it's 5 minutes even, but here we need you to do this. Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious. It's Andre Jackson Jr. Even we've been critical. We pointed out the obvious flaws offensively, but it's still that's the guy that you would say, especially knowing where you're going to need him positionally and seeing more and more through camp, they're leaning into like, he's not a point guard. He's a 3, he's a 4. Like, just like the Kyle Kuzma may be great value Giannis, like, is this like Ben Simmons light that you kind of utilize him as? That I think that's his role. And, like, as good as Chris Livingston has looked throughout summer league and in camp, it's not like eye popping. And I mean, as the president of the fan club, it pains me to say, but like, yeah, he's looked good, but it comes back to what we've talked about all through camp, and that, like, I don't know what your position is. Like, I know he's slimmed down, and I would assume that's to take on some of those bigger wings. Like, this is what we're going to need you to do, but that's still an area that I trust Ajax at more than far more than I do Chris Livingston. And, everything else, like the numbers in terms of counting stats, sure, they've been better for Chris Livingston, but I can't sit here and tell you that Chris Livingston's offense is noticeably better than Andre Jackson Jr.'s.
Yeah, and I think for me with Livingston, I wanted to see him play some more minutes with different guys. I just was very curious to see him out there with the main bench unit, or just what that rotation might look like for him in that position, instead of him coming in at the very, very end of the game. And I think that for me with Livingston and not being able for us to see what that looks like, that tells me that behind closed doors in training camp and practice, what they're seeing is like, it ain't there yet. For whatever the reason that they feel it's just not there for them in Livingston at this point. So he didn't get those opportunities to play with those particular units, which I think says a lot with this particular end of roster race that's going on right now, which again leads me to Andre Jackson Jr. But Livingston is someone who I still would like to see I want to see what it looks like. It might not work if he is out there with the bench unit and whatnot, if you put him in that position to guard the opposing team's wing player, but wanted to see it. And because we didn't see it, that's when I was like, well, maybe they did re-sign Chris Livingston and they're going to cut him again because they like what they see a bit more with Andre Jackson Jr. and with Amir Coffey.
Yeah. I mean, it's very intriguing these next couple days now to see what direction do they go. I hesitate to overreact, but it is notable that it's 2 straight games we did not see those guys. And, I mentioned it before too. Andre Jackson Jr., I think what's been most notable is he is, again, as we've talked about, he can hear the chatter. He knows the discussions that are going on. And I'm sure the Bucks have been upfront with him too. And even you don't even have to hear the chatter to see what's happening with your contract. You're in a fight for your NBA life. So it can be easy to kind of come out and like, well, I got to show I can score and I got to show I can do this. All throughout camp, all throughout these preseason games, Andre Jackson Jr. has come out and played his butt off defensively and been a complementary offensive player, which is going to be his role on this team. So to see him lean into that rather than saying, I got to put up counting stats to stand up, I think says a lot too.
And honestly, with the Tyler Smith discussion, I wonder if they just like what they've seen from Pete Nance so much so far as a two-way guy, where they're
That's
like,
my next point.
Like Tyler Smith is still only 20 years old. He is still a very young player. There can still be levels of his game that he is yet to reach, and it might not be in Milwaukee where he reaches it, because Pete Nance has just been really solid. Like the game against the Thunder, the 3-point shot wasn't really falling for him like we've seen before, but he's going to, what Pete Nance is going to give you. He can space the floor. It's just all just kind of very steady. He's still only 25 years old himself. So he's not as young as Tyler Smith, but he's a younger player still. And I think that might be the thing that's equating into like the Tyler Smith experience on the roster of like, well, we see this with Pete Nance right now, and he gives us a lot of what we're looking for as that stretch big that is playable right now, whereas Tyler Smith might still need some years or some time to develop.
So, let's say, so you think I think that the 2 guys that get the last 2 spots are Amir Coffey and Andre Jackson Jr. You agree with that?
I agree with that. And like I said, the Pete Nance play, a two-way guy who can give you a lot of what you were hoping to get from Tyler Smith, seems like that can make Tyler Smith's role on the roster a little bit more expendable when you have two wing players that you're looking to roster.
So if that is in fact the case, Mark Sears, first of all, is not losing his two-way spot. I mean, that has stood out through preseason of like, okay, this guy gives us something that, injuries occur and he clearly can run in offense and get to his spots and score. So I'm very pleased with that pickup and am very excited to see him continue to develop. We know another two-way spot is guaranteed as well. So that leaves the Pete Nance spot. Let's say those other names, Tyler Smith and Chris Livingston, are cut loose, and you have a choice to make of, do we keep Pete Nance in this two-way spot or do we give it to one of those two guys? You already mentioned you would not choose Tyler Smith over Pete Nance, Chris Livingston over Pete Nance. Does that change your mind at all? Or is it like, sorry guys, we've seen it for a couple of years?
Yeah, I think that might just be it with that. And I think having the flexibility with Pete Nance being on that two-way slot is part of the appealing part, because like it's a roster spot, but it's not a roster spot at the same time. You get those 3 two-way spots. Pete Nance is one, Mark Sears is one. Reportedly, Alex Antetokounmpo is going to be the third one. And if that's the way you're
Camille covering herself here.
Reportedly. But if that's the direction they're going to go in, like, again, it feels to me like it makes Tyler Smith just a little bit more expendable, because you do have Pete Nance that you could call on and be in the rotation if needed. And then for Livingston, again, it's Coffey and it's Jackson.
Yeah, and like Pete Nance too, it's been notable. I don't remember, like, we didn't see a ton of Pete Nance last year. I don't remember seeing as much of this last year, but he's handled the ball quite a bit throughout camp and preseason too, that you get the sense that's another thing. And that's why I go back to Mark Sears too. Look, not every team, not every team, no other team is set up defensively like this Thunder team. And you could see it in spurts last night when they would turn on all right, now we're going to show you how we play defensively. But I think that's the other big concern is, the bigger wing for this Bucks team, offensively and defensively. And then how do you handle pressure? Because it was one of the multiple fatal flaws this team had a season ago, dealing with that. So you need to get more guys that can handle that. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. can handle the ball some, but like, you would like to have initiators and guys that can get things started. You need to sprinkle more of those throughout the roster. And that's certainly Mark Sears. I'm not saying he's going to play next to Giannis or get heavy minutes, but let's continue to develop that there. I think you saw the importance of that in last night's game. All right. I'm curious to hear what everybody else has to say. Leave your thoughts in the comments. These final 2 spots, what happens there? Who are the 2 names that get kept? Who are the names that get cut loose? And what do you do with the 2-way spots too? I would assume we're not going to see any change because of, they don't have, to your point, anything else like Pete Nance.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mark Sears has showed you, I think, more than enough in very limited flashes to know, like, this is something we need to keep developing here and can be a break in case of emergency point guard for us if Cole Anthony goes down. We know Gary Harris is going to be down to start the season. So if you're down a ball handler, this is a guy we trust putting into an NBA game and helping run our second unit. But leave your thoughts on the roster battle for this team and how you think it's going to shake out. Also, if you got any feedback on the bench nicknames, or at least the duo of Ryan Rollins and Cole Anthony, leave your thoughts on those as well. And that's it now, Camille. We got to start to get into season previews. We'll have to cobble together. It's already snuck up on us. Our infamous, how did we phrase it? The over under win total projection, outperform, underperform draft that we did last year with you, me, and Frank.
Yep.
I took last. You won it, didn't you?
Yeah, sure did.
We'll have to do one of those again. We have heavily hinted at an upcoming show that we think people will be very, very pleased with. I think That is going to be next Wednesday, the day that the regular season tips off. We think we still got to iron out a few details, but people certainly be pleased with that show. We'll leave it at that. And, some other Eastern Conference outlooks that we now have to get into here with some of the broader thoughts that we have on the conference and how the Bucks stack up there. So we got less than a week now to get into this, with the season tipping off 1 week from tonight and Chris Middleton making his return to Milwaukee. Look, it's been rough in the building, the 2 home preseason games, because they've had the misfortune of going up against the Brewers.
Yep.
Don't know how much longer that's going to go on, but I expect the vibes next Wednesday to be immaculate with the regular season here, and of course, Chris Middleton back in town.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of those games where I was talking to a friend who was thinking of going, and they were like, "Do I want to cry in public, or like should I just stay home for?"
Well, I mean, they
regular
have
game?"
to do a very, very lengthy tribute video. Like,
Have
it's
to.
not going to be just a 30-second, like, "Hey, Chris, thanks for everything." Like, I would imagine we're going to get
He deserves it.
yeah, it's going to be a retrospective of, like, here's Chris with Giannis in the young days, and here's them building, and maybe bleep out Giannis saying, "Chris, we effing did it." And like, yeah, it's going to get misty in the building next Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm gonna be crying. I'm gonna tell y'all now. I'm gonna be a mess. I'm gonna have my Chris Middleton jersey on, my Bucks Chris Middleton jersey on, and just, man, it should be fun though. But yeah, we're, like you mentioned, a week away from the Bucks kicking off the regular season now, and man, it went fast, but it also went slow, and I'm just excited that we're at this point now.
All right, leave your thoughts on the back of the roster debate and even the two-way spots. And as we mentioned, we are soliciting feedback for nicknames for that duo of Ryan Rollins and Cole Anthony. That'll do it for today's show. I think now we start previewing the rest of the conference, so that'll start to come your way throughout the rest of the week. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again tomorrow on Locked On Bucks.